Hi, today I'm going to show you how to plant tomatoes from seed. There are a lot of different methods out on the internet on how to do this, ranging from throwing many seeds into one container to start them and transplanting later, to transplanting two at a time in cells. This is the way we're going to do it. First, we're going to start with some containers. I have some of these containers here that are very handy. You could also use yogurt cups or solo cups. You're also going to start with your seeds. I've gone a little overboard with the number of seeds that we have, but today I'm going to plant tie-dye tomatoes that we saved from seed last year and some purple calabash tomato seeds that I was given in the mail. You want to make some labels up for your tomatoes. That's very important. There are many different ways to label the containers. You could use fancy labels like this. You could use popsicle sticks like I have here. You could simply put tape on the container and label that as well. That's almost the safe way to do it because that's not likely to fall out if you have tape right on the container. All right, I have some potting soil here. You do not want to use soil from your garden or soil from outside, as you want to keep it relatively sterile, free from disease. It's also already been balanced to have good moisture control and yet aerated enough for your tomatoes to grow properly. I have it here started in this bucket because I'm going to add some water to the soil. I'm adding water to the soil ahead of time to pre-mix and pre-moisten the soil up. Once you put the little delicate seeds in, you really kind of want to have your soil already moist, and it takes quite a bit of water. Here's a second one to moisten that soil up. Again, it's good to have a clean bucket as well to do this in. We don't want to bring in any outside contaminants from your garden. So in order to clean any outside tools that you would use, like a spade that you might use in the garden or a bucket you might use in the garden, I bleach everything down before it comes into our greenhouse. A little bit more. So even this small little bucket that I have here, that took 2 full-size mason jars of water to pre-moisten. Okay, so I'm going to fill one-handed. Container here with soil. I like to fill it pretty close to the lid. You definitely want to get it at least up to that little line, but you don't have to be perfect. Okay, so we have our cup like this. Now, in our cups, we also have holes in the bottom. So if you're using yogurt containers, you need to punch enough holes in the bottom to allow drainage. Okay, we're going to use this method because for beginners, it's going to be easier to separate the seedlings once they've grown out. We're going to put one seed in the middle and then one seed in each corner. That way, when we go to transplant them out later, we can leave one in this container and then move the other ones to their own containers. Okay, tricky part. Seeds with one hand. Ooh, too many. Okay, well, these are what tomato seeds look like. Okay, some are smaller than the others. And these are the tie-dye, so I'm going to put one in each hole. Sorry about that. Ooh, there's my finger. Okay. Did it go off? Yep. There it goes. And then 2 more. One in the middle. And one more. Maybe. They stick together. So we might end up with 2 right here, but that's okay. All right. I only place them about 1/4 inch deep. They don't need to be very deep to start. Pat them up. And that's it. They're good. So I expect to see 1 plant from each seed. In a couple days, I'll see 1 in the middle one in each corner and probably two coming from that corner. It's pretty common for tomato seeds to get a very good germination rate. You might get one or two not pop up for most varieties, but yes, each seed should produce one full plant. All right, so now what do I do with my trays or my pots? So when I have my pots, after I label it, after I have my pot, I'm going to take the pot, look at all that nice water that drained out, and I'm going to put it in a tray. Now, I'm going to be putting it in a tray that does not have holes in the bottom so that I can put this tray anywhere I want without making a giant mess like I did here. Okay, so I can fill this tray up with miniature pots, and then I'm going to take a cover when I have this all full, and I am going to cover the pots like so. Okay, what that's going to do is that's going to hold in a lot of the moisture that is in the pot, so that I may not have to water this at all for the week while the little seedlings are coming up. Now I'm still going to check it, make sure it's not getting too dry, and if it is, I'll probably go in and spray it. Okay, so this will keep in the moisture as our very delicate little seedlings pop up. The seedlings, when they come up, will have two pre-leaves. They're little cotyledons. They're relatively oval-shaped and nondescript that will come up and be the first true green leaves. Before they've sprouted, this tray can go anywhere warm. It has to be someplace warm to get quick germination rate. Okay, there are trays that are meant to set seedling trays on, little heating pads, where you can put them underneath and get quicker germination that way, or just put this in someplace warm in your house. Once you do have the little leaves, however, that is when your tomato plants need some light. You must get light. So once you have green sprouting here, you have to immediately take your seeds and get them under light. In the greenhouse that we have here, we get enough sunlight in here to be able to just put them in the greenhouse and they'll be pretty happy. If you are working without a greenhouse, like most people, some people claim that you can take them outside in the full sun and bring them in at night if you are in a climate that is okay to do that with. If you are stuck inside and needing to give them light inside, an alternative way to do that is to have a light. This is a lighting system here. The seedlings need a good deal of light in order to be happy seedlings. In order to get a good amount of light, we have to move, let's see if I can get it, the light down to just above the seedlings. Okay, that's hard to do one-handed, but imagine it's just above. If you don't get a good deal amount of sunlight on your seedlings, they will become what's called leggy, meaning your plants will get very tall and skinny before they get their first true leaves, which will make them susceptible to fall over and not be as healthy. You still can save them at that point by replanting them deep, but to avoid getting leggy in the first place, you simply just need a lot of light. Now, I don't have any plants to show you for the transplanting, as these are my first of the year, but when you go to transplant, you can take a popsicle stick or a spoon and gently dig out the plant, roots and everything, very gently, and from the leaf, transplant it into another pot. When you do the transplanting, you're going to have to plant the seedling as deep as possible, all the way up into those first true leaves. Anywhere along that stem that you plant into the dirt is going to grow new roots. So that'll make a healthier, happier plant in the long run. Okay, so when transplanting, wait till they get their first true leaves, meaning leaves that actually look like tomato leaves. They'll be the kind that come out after the cotyledons, and then you can transplant into a new pot. And then each plant will have its own pot and its own label. Let's see, one other thing that would be good to do is to make sure your seedlings get a lot of air. You don't want it to be stagnant when you're growing your seedlings, so you might want to take a fan and direct it over the seedlings to keep the air moving over them. There are some different methods of watering your seedlings, one of which is spraying them. You could water them from the top, or you can water them from below. So if you have your trays here, you can put water into the tray and it will be sucked up into the plant. Okay. The tricky part about doing this is whatever is not sucked up, you do need to dump out. When watering tomatoes, they prefer to have periods of dry time. If you keep them too wet, they will catch disease and die, or catch disease and be very, very sick. So it's good to let them dry out a little bit. The nice thing about tomatoes, when they get to a certain height, they'll begin to tell you when they're ready for water. When they get droopy, then they're ready for water. If they're still standing tall and pretty happy, it's probably not time to water them yet. That's just a rule of thumb. And like I tell my students, you want to stick your finger down into the soil about an inch to see if it's still moist before determining whether or not to water them. Okay? I hope this helps get you started in planting your seeds. Happy spring!